We don't have a quorum yet.
I know we don't. So what do we do?
We should just wait a little bit.
Okay, let's hold off. I know Lynn is out of town, but Paul said he was going to be on, and I'm going to assume Director Busick will be on. He was in the service planning meeting.
I'm here.
Oh,
Okay.
there's Paul.
Hi.
Is that a quorum?
We're ready. We're ready.
Okay, let's do it. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the Regional Transportation District's Executive Committee meeting on August 19th, 2021. It is 11:31 a.m. Ms. McManus, could you please do the roll call?
Yes. Just one moment. Director Geisinger. Director Cook.
Here.
Director Busick. Director Busick. Director Rosenthal.
Present.
Chair Rivera Malpietti.
Present.
Vince Busick. I see that he's on, but I guess we'll just read him into the record.
Okay, thank you.
And then additionally, we have on the call Brandy Hunter, Jillian Knapp Rhodes, Ty Shrey Parrish in the board office, General Manager Johnson, General Counsel Melanie Schneider, Michael Davies, Government Relations Officer. Thank you.
And I see Director Sloan is also on.
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah, hi all.
I see her now, and Director
Okay.
Sloan. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. I want to, first of all, get an adoption for the August board meeting agenda review. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Rosenthal.
Second, Shelley.
We have a movement in a second. I do want to make one notation, and that is under unanimous consent, we did take out the accountability committee component and put it under recommended action so that the board could see the all of the responses from the board of directors. So I just wanted to notate that. With that in mind, do I have any no's on adopting the official board agenda for August? Hearing none, it is, we'll move that forward, Ms. McManus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I want to just talk a little bit about under other matters, a couple of pieces. The first one is the redistricting process. And as you know, I had appointed both Director Broom and Director Whitmore. Director Whitmore has since decided not to be on the redistricting committee due to some pieces that he's working on in his day job. So I have asked Director Sloan to take that spot, and she has graciously agreed. So I wanted to just talk about that a little bit. And then other than that, Ms. McManus, can you talk a little bit about what the process will be looking like from this point forward?
So I'm sorry, I was just texting Director Tisdale because he's also supposed to be on to
Okay.
speak with Director Cook. So could you repeat that question? I apologize.
In terms of the redistricting, what the process is from this point out.
Well, right now we have our outside vendor that is working with the data from the census that they have so far. They do have some information from the counties that they're using for preliminary information until everything is finalized sometime in September. We haven't had any meetings, and I know that periodically, Chris Quinn and Bill Van Meter and his team will be bringing forward an update as to where we are. They have been notified of the change of directors on that committee, and we will keep you updated with any new information that comes forward.
All right, thank you. You know what I'd like to do is, Secretary Busick, are you on?
Oh, I got a text. I texted him. He said, yes, but I can't unmute myself.
Okay. Then with your permission, and maybe you can see if this is okay, Director Cook or Second Vice Chair Cook, I would like to ask our General Counsel to maybe do a little update on the GMOC process as we move forward.
Sure.
All right. General Counsel?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, certainly the GMOC is going to be meeting on Thursday next week on the 26th as scheduled, and that agenda will be coming out right away. I think, Chair, what you would ask me to talk with this committee about is just a reminder of some of the deadlines in the general manager's contract. So I'll go ahead and do that now, and certainly that's something that the GMOC will be overseeing. So as a reminder, the third amendment to the employment agreement that the board adopted in July allows for and requires a competitive solicitation for the compensation analysis for the general manager and CEO salary. So that will be forthcoming. I'll be working with GMOC Chair Busick on that, preparing that solicitation. We anticipate that that will go out in the next couple of months. And just as a reminder, that compensation analysis will be used to frame and to guide the board in setting the GM and CEO's salary starting in January of 2023. The next deadline to be aware of is that the first performance period for the general manager and CEO will close on November 8th, 2021. So that will be for Ms. Johnson's first year of her performance. As you may recall, the board in the contract decided to use the job description parameters. That's what we will use this first year for the evaluation process. Ms. Johnson will have the opportunity to submit a self-evaluation for the board's consideration before that evaluation is put forth. And the TransPro vendor also will be making available a tool for that initial process. And then the board will, of course, use the strategic plan objectives going forward for performance evaluations in the following years.
All right, thank you. Any questions from anyone?
Madam Chair, if I could ask General Counsel Snyder just to clarify, there are timelines. I think that'd be advantageous to share relative to the first year, and I don't believe that was referenced, just for everybody's edification. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and General Counsel.
Yes.
General Counsel?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Ms. Johnson. Yes, so the board must provide an evaluation by December 31st of this year for that first year of performance.
All right, thank you so very much. I really appreciate the timeline because it shows us exactly how much time we have to achieve these goals. So thank you very much. Secretary Busick, are you able to speak? Are you unmuted yet?
He is not able to speak at this point in time.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, I know that we're going to be talking about the governance component, but before we do that, is there any other matter to come forward? Director Rosenthal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just thought that perhaps, given the correspondence and some of the conversations, and I know about the bus 520, and I know the general manager and others and some of her team and have visited there, and just thought we'd get an update perhaps for our next board meeting so the public knows kind of that we are working on it and that there is developments in progress.
Thank you. General Manager?
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair and Director Rosenthal. I appreciate the inquiry. I was planning to provide an update during the course of my general manager report on Tuesday, August 24th. But since the question was posed, I will share with you that I have been working collectively and cooperatively in earnest with the county manager of Adams County. Additionally, we have had 2 meetings where went in person to Adams County. Director Cook was in attendance, as well as Director Whitmore, along with Michael Davies of my team, as well as Jesse Carter. After said meeting, there was a subsequent meeting in which the mayor of Brighton convened in conjunction with RTD. We had earnest dialogue in the context of that meeting as well. Subsequent to that, I have been, as I indicated, coordinating with the county manager of Adams County, and Michael Davies is serving as liaison, working with representative staff from both Brighton as well as with Adams County. With that being said, I am personally going out on Monday to Adams County, along with members of my team from an operational vantage point, working with the county of Adams to look at some short-term solutions. We have agreement that we're going to work in earnest on a short-term solution and then look at a long-term solution. I don't want to delve into the matter specific to that because that meeting is on Monday, and in deference to them and working cooperatively, I think it would be misleading to delve deeper at this juncture, since that's our meeting on site to walk through those options. So with that, I will yield the floor back to you, Madam Chair, and thank you once again, Director Rosenthal, for posing that question.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Director Rosenthal?
It does, and I think that would be just what the general manager said would be great for our next board meeting. And then on another issue, and I know that the general manager has spoken to this like maybe a month ago or so, and I know there's a press release regarding this, but the Bronco ride still continues to get some media coverage, and we do get emails. I also, when I'm in public, I do speak with members of the public about this. Perhaps that would be something that we can have another sort of update on that subject at our next board meeting, and go over the reasons why we are going the direction we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, can I add on to that?
Please.
Yeah, I'm getting calls, and it just seems to have sparked among the group of people who relied on it a real anger. So it might be good on Tuesday as well to, if we had numbers for people who boarded the train, or just some sense of how it went on Sunday. I think that would be helpful as well.
Duly noted. All right, thank you.
So just to qualify to manage expectations, I will try to pull together information, but that may be slightly challenging. So I want to manage your expectations accordingly in relationship to how we do ridership data. It would be purely speculative in the sense of looking at APC, automatic passenger counters and things of the like that haven't been validated as of yet. So I do want to ensure, Director Cook, you have that understanding going forward.
Yeah, and if it generates a whole lot of extra work, I don't want to do that either. So thank you.
Okay, and I'm more than happy to provide that, when we get that going forward. And just to manage all expectations, as you all know, I can imagine you're getting, inquiries and so forth. And we have been working in tandem with the Broncos, as you know, and they have been publicizing, and we've been working in earnest to showcase the various modes of transport in reference to accessing Empower Field at Mile High. So with that, I will be prepared to do that, and will try my best to see what kind of numbers we can get, Director Cook. So thank you very much, Directors Rosenthal and Madam Chair.
Thank you so very much. The next item that I'd like to talk about, and I'm hoping Second Vice Chair Cook, is the ad hoc committee on the committee structure. Do you have an update?
Sure. I could recap what's included within our packet and add a couple of comments to that and talk about a path forward, if that would be all right, Madam Chair.
Please.
Is Director Tisdale on the line yet?
Yes, he is.
Okay, good.
Yes, I am.
I will offer some remarks or an outline, and then we'll turn it over to you to add to it, if that's all right, Director Tisdale. And first of all, thank you to our chair for convening this committee and sticking with it all that time. I really appreciate it. And we've worked, it's been mainly a group of 5 of us And then recently, adding in Deborah Johnson and Michael Davies. And we've benefited greatly from their thinking. But in terms of the group that worked over at time, it was Director Tisdale and myself as the ad hoc committee, but really on equal terms with Barbara McManus and John McKay and Ty Schrade. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the work and effort, and I appreciate the good thinking that has gone into that. So if you recall, the effort was to look at whether a different governance structure, and in particular, smaller committees might make sense. And we had all, or several of us had seen the ED Stackrow APTA webinar last July, a year ago. And I at least, and I know Director Tisdale made special mention of it, it was just very impressive. And out of that sort of interest, we looked at forming a more limited number of committees and providing for probably 5 to 7 is what we said, but it looks like it'll kind of even out at 7 for each of the committees. And so where we have landed with as a tentative recommendation for the executive committee and the board to consider is 4 standing committees. And noting that we'll set aside right now the internal audit committee, because that one would meet probably quarterly or as necessary and would be an exception to the standing committee's meeting and structure. So that leaves 4 standing committees: the executive committee, the operations and safety committee, finance and planning committee, and the performance committee. And you can see the description under each of these. The executive committee would be, we considered whether it could be broadened somewhat from what it does currently and include things like what they're terming public affairs matters, which I understand to take into account, working with the outward facing part of of our effort as a board. Perhaps a legislative review, some of the things that we currently have under intergovernmental relations and communications. And then overall responsible for governance matters. And then secondly would be operations and safety. That would be responsible for consideration of transit service delivery, safety and security matters. The third committee is finance and planning. One thing I would note here, we in the description, it's listed as responsible for consideration of all long-term financial planning, budget preparation, and planning program management matters. It's really as well, it makes all kinds of sense to link financial planning with the longer term planning, because as obviously the financial constraints come into play, and you want to make sure you have a linkage with your budget for the things that you undertake as goals and so forth. So I would just suggest that it's a long-term and financial planning or something, so as to not seem to narrow it only to financial planning. It's really what precedes the financial planning in a lot of ways is the long-term planning for the agency. And secondly, performance committee, this is what is currently the GMOC. I would kind of leave it to Deborah Johnson and or Director Busick to discuss how this is an elaboration of what we currently have. And then finally, as mentioned, the audit committee. We'll need to decide a few things going forward. The meetings that are tentatively proposed would be on the second Tuesday and Wednesday of each month. In other words, you might have operations and safety plus one of the other ones on a Tuesday, and finance and planning on Wednesday. And it might be that the committees themselves could work that out. We just didn't go that far in nailing that down. And the idea would be to avoid what we had a couple of weeks ago, where we had 3+1 committees and we ended up going till 10. And by the time we got to 10 o'clock, I think we were all beat, just tuckered out, and didn't end up, I think, giving the attention to some of the matters that we would have otherwise. So by spreading these into two meeting days on the second Tuesday and Wednesday of the month, and then the board meeting 2 weeks after that, that would, first of all, I think it would give us both a chance to delve into our topic matters more deeply, or at least with the ability to be more engaged on it. And then secondly, we'd at the same time be able to cut down on the number of meetings and hopefully late night meetings that we have. Some things that have to be decided yet that we wanted to get your input on is how we go about determining the leadership of the committees and the composition of the committees. And one idea that GM CEO Johnson had was to perhaps array the options on those and then seek board input as a survey, for example. If we did that, it might be that we'd want to accompany it with a little bit of a, an analysis or a pro-con kind of a thing. So to give people food for thought. And then a third piece that we need to talk about, hopefully, is how we begin to roll this out. How do we work with the board in terms of getting input at this point? We really have stressed all along that we didn't, nothing was going to be predetermined. We wanted input and to sincerely incorporate that as we went along. So Director Tisdale, can you please chime in here?
Okay, sorry, when you have multiple screens, it's sometimes hard to figure out where the mute is. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the terrific outline that Director Cook has provided to you concerning the work of the governance committee structure. I'm sorry, the committee structure meeting. First, what we have presented to you now is essentially intended as a stalking horse. This is our thought based upon well over a year's work of trying to assess how we can A, improve the committees, and B, demonstrate responsiveness to the state audit and the accountability committee's review of RTD and governance in particular. The principal elements of this proposal are, first, to have fewer committees. Second, to have smaller committees. Third, to have more efficient and effective committees and committee meetings. And fourth, to have fewer meetings. The elements that are definitely open for further development, all of these are open. It's a stalking horse. The elements that are particularly open for further development are the committee chair selection, since we're going to a reduced number of committees and a reduced number of members, should the board approve. So that's something where the committee chair selection, I think, is much more an issue that the full board would want to weigh in on. Secondly, committee membership selection, because it was easy in the past. Everybody was on every committee. But if we're going to narrow it down, then I think there's going to be a definite desire on the part of the board that this not be a unilateral choice by the chair. That was not the power of the chair when the chair was elected, and to accrete that power now is something that I think would demand further board input. So those are the things that I know there will be further discussion, and there are some proposals, there are some thoughts. I mean, could we, for example, regarding committee chairs, do the same process that we go through for electing officers? And that is simply say, okay, we're going to have elections now to see who is going to be the chair of the Finance and Planning Committee. People can be nominated and the board votes. Who do they want as chair? Just the way we do things now. It seems to work. Maybe that applies. That's only one suggestion. That's not to say this committee has determined that, has proposed that. I'm just offering that. So I think with those comments as addition, I think we've laid out, and I think you have a good presentation from Michael Davies in particular and Deborah Johnson. It was phenomenally helpful to have the board staff involved in this, to have our CEO, general manager, and to have Michael in his capacity do this, because all of this work is to create something that will work well with staff and make us a better agency. Therefore, it need not be conducted in a silo with just two directors coming up with this proposal. we spread it out so that we had others participate. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Those are my thoughts at this point.
Let me begin by extending my deepest gratitude to both you, Second Vice Chair Cook and Director Tisdale, for taking on this issue and doing one heck of a job. I also want to commend you because you actually reached out to ban candidates for the RTV Board of Directors whose name was going to be on the ballot about this. So it's not a new concept that no one on this board has heard. And I think doing that groundwork was really, really helpful. From my perspective, I'm so grateful for our general manager, our board staff, and Mr. Davies for working with us to try and put this together. I think this is an amazing body of work. And I guess for me, and I'd like to open it up for discussion, I would really like to see us escalate this discussion and determine the plan so that we could start with the new committee structure in January. So that would mean we'd have to have all these pieces in place. I would love to see a survey of the board of what they're thinking right now. And I don't know, Ms. McManus, I'm wondering if there shouldn't be a total board conversation around this with the presentation from Director Tisdale and Second Vice Chair Cook, along with Michael Davies and the general manager, so that the board can have some input and start thinking about what it is they want to do, and perhaps followed up with a survey and analysis so that we are all on board with how they want to move forward. Those are my comments. Director Rosenthal, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I echo the commendation for everybody who really contributed on this, and you can tell you guys put in a lot of effort. So my question is regarding to subcommittees and ad hoc committees. Where would they fit in? Because they also have chairs and vice chairs, and they have important work that they also do, and how would they fit? Thank you.
Good question. Ms. McManus.
So I do want to note that we did do, as the smaller committee last year, we did do the due diligence of reaching out to all of the directors and getting their comments and thoughts on this. And a lot of the information and the structure that's in place right now came out of the comments that the full board were involved in. I just wanted to bring that up because the board has been integrally involved as we move through this process. And yes, this final product should go to them for review.
Thank you so much. I think that's really, really important for everyone to know that this has been a pretty inclusive process so far. And so next steps, I'll just ask Second Vice Chair Cook, what is your vision for the next steps?
I think we need to introduce to the board the idea that we're looking at moving ahead, and maybe have this, as Director Tisdale said, as a stalking horse, including with it the prior work that goes back a year and includes the feedback we got from folks back in December, and then lays out, just actually does what you've suggested, lays out the steps that we need to take, the questions that need to be answered, how we propose to have the board determining that, and the timeline for adoption. And so that's what I would suggest. Director Tisdale?
Thank you very much. Yes, and the further thing is just to articulate that the chair's goal, as expressed here, of hoping to have this in place for January 1, 2022 is consistent with what this ad hoc committee has reviewed, what staff has looked at. We believe it is eminently workable, and particularly having the excellent work of Michael Davies with us in formulating some of the language for these things. We will have a heavy lift for general counsel going forward, obviously in terms of the bylaw amendments in order to effectuate this. And we have, by the way, eliminated the initial concept that we had kicked around at the beginning regarding, well, maybe we do this as a pilot project for 6 months or more likely a year, and determined instead that, no, let's make this change and commit to it, which is respectful of the observation that was made by Director Deschel when he was reviewing this and saying, I think you need to show that you're all in and not look like there's an escape hatch somewhere. The simple answer to people who are concerned that, well, maybe this isn't going to turn out to be a good idea is, well, we can amend the bylaws back if we feel we are compelled to do that. But let's start working on presenting this to the board, getting the board's response to what, as I say, I have called a stalking horse, and articulating committee chair selection, committee member selection, and then go forward with the drafting of the bylaws to accomplish the same, all of which reasonably should be able to be accomplished during the last 4 months of 2021. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. McManus, I see your hand up, and then Director Rosenthal.
I'm sorry, I didn't take mine down.
Director Rosenthal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so speaking to that issue that Director Tisdale just brought up on the bylaws, just looking towards the end, what is the required vote by the board in order to effectuate these changes in the bylaws? Is it majority? Is it 2/3, 3/4? What is it?
It's super majority.
So 10 or, yeah, 10, correct?
Okay, and thank you very much.
All right, so then I guess what I'd like to do is ask the ad hoc committee to continue to meet with Ms. McManus, Mr. Davies, and general counsel, whomever, to start putting into place how we move forward so that the timeline does end up being the goal of having these in place by the end of December to implement in January.
Good.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Is there any other matters to come before the executive committee today? All right, hearing none, I would like to ask for an adjournment.
So moved, Rosenthal.
Second, Cook.
Okay, moved and second. Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned as of 12:02 p.m. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye now.
Thank you.